Hi folks, well this video has changed. Originally when I started it I was looking to go to 2 or 3 different places, but it's extended a little bit. I think the second part needs its own justice to its own video. This video I found out some certain items about a particular person which, when I'm sure when I go into it, you'll realise that in hindsight I think the British should have kept this guy, but you'll find out later into the video what I'm referring to. And just on a different point, as I said on the previous video, the next video I'm going to put out after this is the D-Day landings. So I'm going to be at the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings, and I will be putting out a video in reference to that. This is the last living major anniversary there will be of the D-Day landings. What I mean is that the last remaining people still alive from D-Day will be there. They're aged between 97 and 107. So come the 90th anniversary, 10 years time, most of those, if not all of them, would have passed away, and then it becomes just more of a memory rather than at the moment it's a living memory, because they are still veterans, and I think they will be at the Omaha Beach, which is a celebratory beach where all the world leaders will be there on the 6th of June. And I'll be there as well, so look out for that video. So before you even watch this, at least subscribe, and then you won't miss that video when it comes out in the next few weeks. And there'll be 2 or 3 videos, because I'm going to do a short version and then a longer version of my duration while I was there. So with that, let's get on with this one. So we start off with the Linz Valley, and then we head up towards Oxstones, and then we camp in a quarry. And then in the next day, we go to a place called Brown Edge. And that's become the highlight of this video. Let's watch it along, and I look forward to the next video when I'll be out in Normandy.
Hiya folks, it's Andy, and we're out on another adventure, another overnighter. Now this time I started at a place called Dore and Totley, which is on the outskirts of Sheffield in South Yorkshire. So we're going to walk from here into the Peak District, and the way we're going to do it is walking along the Linz Valley. Eventually we'll head up, and then we'll get up to, well, believed to be an old Roman road. Then from there we'll head up, and we'll eventually get up to a place called the Oxstones. From there we'll head on to another place called Brown Edge Quarries. It's disused. So with that, let's get walking. This is the Ecclesall Woods near Totley and Dore. The Linz Brook on our right. The path, it looks like it's an old pack horse route with the stones like this. So historically, Ecclesall Woods were used for the production of charcoal and white coal for the iron, steel and lead industries. Depression in the ground, known as Q pits, still remain from white coal production. Okay, that didn't go to plan. Well, I was walking along, I was thinking it's a bit wet and slippy, and at that point I slipped over. Now I had lovely red, orange and grey clean clothes a moment ago. Now I've added another colour to it, brown. It's all over me, all over my coat, all over my trousers. I don't look so good now. Well, it's not a great start to this walk. So much for bringing my boots out. It's that slippy, I could have walked barefoot or in flip-flops or slippers. It wouldn't have made any difference. It's like a blooming ice ring. So just behind me is the lodge house to the Whitlow Brook Hall. Now the house is used as a wedding venue and the parks are open to the public. But it was built in 1906 for Percy Fawcett. Now Percy Fawcett was a director for Thomas Firth and Sons. They were big steelmakers in Sheffield. Firth and Sons still exists today, although it's not as big as it once was. In 1920, Sir Walter Benton Jones purchased the property. His wife, Lady Jones, also known as Madge, well, she was sister to Percy Fawcett. They were very keen gardeners, and over the years, he had a team of gardeners with the Horticultural Society established 39 acres of lovely gardens. So when Madge passed away in 1951, Sir Walter left the house and moved back to his ancestral home and gave the house and its grounds to public use. Now originally there was a pub here just behind me, and it was the Whitlow Bridge Inn. Now in 1938 the pub was demolished and these two houses were built behind me, two semi-detaches, and they were built by Sir Walter for his staff that worked within the hall. Anyway, we're going to head on now, and now we're going to walk through the Lim Valley. I'll tell you a little bit more about Lim Valley when we get up there. Well, I've got a feeling that caravan needs a bit of a clean. Now I saw one of these plants just a bit further on and I didn't know what it was, and then all of a sudden there's hundreds of them all around here. Some sort of lily, I guess. I think the lilies in full bloom in a bit of marshland. Now these lilies do remind me of the Day of the Triffids. If anyone's seen that B-movie film. So I mentioned earlier about the white coal pits that are dotted around this landscape, and I think this might well be one of them. One by the Lim Brook. The Lim Valley was connected by the Christian religion. As Canterbury and York cathedrals, this was a dividing line. So on one side we have York, the northern side, and on the southern side we've got Canterbury and their cathedrals that controlled the lands of England at one point in time. Now on top of that, it's got another bit of history to it. Back in 879, in the Mercia days, well, this Lims Valley was the dividing point between Mercia and Northumbria. It was also in this area was renowned as a good meeting point. For King Egbert, well, he led an army up to Dore and they met up near here. And he met King Erned. Now, King Erned was preoccupied with the Danish raiding his area. He was worried of putting his army into this battle. So what he did was a treaty between the two kings. This meant that King Egbert became the overlord to the area. And that meant he had the whole control of basically England. It wasn't until later, well, 927 to be precise, that England became a unity under King Aethelstan. Right, we're going to carry on this walk. We're heading up towards the top now, and we're heading up to a road. Well, it's got some historical past to it. Some people believe it's a Roman road. So as we overlook Sheffield and Rotherham all the way across that landscape. But just noticed this, just off the edge of the road. So it dates back to the Victorians, and I would have thought because it's fenced off like this, it would have been a well at one point or another. Okay, so we are now walking on Houndskirk Road. Now, locals think it's a Roman road, but nothing is proven that it is that. On the right hand side now, we've got Houndskirk Quarry, and this has been derelict for some hundreds of years. But Houndskirk Road has been used for ancient drovers who drove their cattle along this road, maybe to market. Now we're heading up onto the moorland. Now there is one problem, little schoolboy error. Well, I've been looking at the weather, as in when it's going to rain and when it's going to be sunny, what the temperatures are. One thing I didn't look at, the winds. And we're looking at wind gusts around 45 miles an hour tonight. Well, fortunately, I bought my more sturdier tent, so that's a relief. But we'll get up on the top. We're getting up onto the moorland in a moment. I want to go to a particular place in a moment on the moorland, a couple of stones, and then we'll head on to where we're going to camp. So as we look across the landscape, we are now in the Peak District. Earlier part, when we were in Lim Valley, we were not in the Peak District. Now this is the old Drovers route, and this mark post here, I believe, is meant to be one of the milestones, although I have been told some of the milestones do have writing on. Some of that writing dates back several hundred years, as the Drovers date back to the 1400s. Now, I just spoke to a lady who's from Glasgow. Now, although she's from Glasgow, she lives in Sheffield. She just told me this is a lovely place to come quite frequently for the sun, the evening sun. We're up to our next place, which I'm hoping is in the next 20 minutes, because you can see the sun's going down. I reckon I've got 45 minutes before sunset, and we haven't worked out when camping yet. Like usual, it's going to be a camp in the dark. Okay, I'm not sure if you can hear me. It's a bit gusty up here. I can hardly walk in it. It's blowing a howler. Well, we've reached Oxstones. And here's the trig point at 419 above sea level. We do the usual, we touch the trig. And now we're going to head up to the Oxstones. So this is the Oxstones. On the outskirts of Sheffield. You can just see to the right of the right hand rock, Sheffield in the background. Now, why are they called the Oxstones? I haven't got a clue, but they're both an outcrop of gritstone. And all I can say is that it is a windy place, very exposed. You've got to be as strong as an ox to stand up in this place. So that's maybe why they're called the Oxstones. Right, we're heading on. Bit of yumping to do now. It's getting dark very soon. So what I need to do is find somewhere to pitch. Now, the other side of the road is where I'm looking. So let's head over there now. Now they're close. Okay, we have found our place camping tonight. The only place I need now is somewhere dry, flat, and out of this wind. Okay, this hasn't got me out of the wind. See what's down here? I think a big hole. Oh, a private swimming pool. So this quarry was used in the past for roof tiles. So it's called Brown Edge Quarry. Some flattish bits around here. We're out a little bit of wind, so let's get the tent pitched up. Right folks, we're in the tent. That's probably the worst pitch I've ever done in my life. I don't know what time it is. Oh my God, it's taken me about 45 minutes to put that tent up. There's a reason why people don't pitch the tents in quarries, because quarry is a plate of stone. And I just realised that when I started putting the tent pegs in. I think I bent about 4. I brought some spears and I still didn't have enough pegs. I've got guy lines holding guy lines up, I think. I thought being in this quarry, the wind would reduce, but I've just had a look at the weather forecast. There's wind gusts up to 55 miles an hour. And even though I'm in this quarry, I'm still quite exposed. It's going to be a windy night. 2 tent pegs, there's 1 guy line over here, that the only 2 pegs that's pushed all the way into the ground. Everything else is like halfway or put on angles or all sorts. So the chances of the tent still be standing in the morning, especially with this wind, I've got no idea if it's going to still be standing. Note to self, do not park in a quarry again, ever. The whole ground is rock hard. Well, anyway, I've got in the tent. My hands were freezing as well. It was a nightmare. I do not want to go through that again. I mean, I've been camping since I was 9, so 46 years now. Well, nearly 47 years. And that's, I think, the worst time I've had to put a tent up. Right, anyway, let's get my gear sorted out and I'll come back to you in a little while once I've set up, relaxing a little bit more. Right, folks, we're back with you. The wind's dropped a little bit. I mean, it's gusting around, but not as bad as it was earlier. But the temperature's dropped no end. Even though I warmed up initially my hands and I felt once for being in a tent, it's still quite cold out here. And it's surprising because I'm not actually on the moorland. I haven't really checked for the temperature. Well enough, internet's not working again. He's finding some spots where the internet is working. One of the good things is I did bring, I don't know why, but I just decided last minute to bring my down booties. Yeah, and it's worthwhile because I've got some smart wool socks on and then I've got my down booties. Feet are nice and toasty now. I've also brought my one Tignes down blanket with me again today. I would say it's worthwhile getting one of these. The down blanket, it weighs around 500 or 600 grams. It's got a water repellency outer as well. So yeah, I think it's a good investment. This was about £70 on Amazon, one Tignes down blanket. So what I'm going to do in a moment is I'm going to retire. I've got a gin and tonic with me in a can. All right. So with that, I'm going to say good night for me, and I'll see you in the morning. Morning, folks. And what a night it was. For some apparent reason, I thought, rather than go to sleep, I'll just think about going to sleep. Till probably 3 o'clock in the morning, I was just sitting there trying to go to sleep, but couldn't get to sleep. Then by the time I got to sleep, the alarm went off and it was time to wake up. Although I did nod off again this morning and then missed the sunrise, which is a pity because the sky's quite clear. And you can see where the tent is pitched now. My tent pegs, thankfully, I managed to push them in enough that the tents managed to stay up throughout the night. So I've cracked on and I'm near enough ready to go. All I've got to do is take the tent down and we're off. It's a lot better today. I wanted to get up because I heard a dog barking, so there must have been somebody walking around. The problem is, just right around this edge is a footpath, right on the edge. So somebody must have been walking the dog this morning, heard that, and they must have been out 7 o'clock in the morning. So I wanted to get up and off before people start coming down here and asking why I'm here. As I say, I won't be camping in a quarry again. The ground's so hard, it just took me forever to put my tent up last night. Right, okay, so I'll get my gear, get the tent down, and then we'll get off. Today we are walking 6.5 miles into the centre of Sheffield, and it finishes off where I want to get to, the train station, which fits perfectly. Right, we're ready for the off. Leave no trace, as per usual. Always check your area. Check that you've not left any tent pegs. Also check you've left no litter whatsoever. Even bits of food that you've left on the floor, you don't know what the local habitat eat. And if they've got a bit of pasta or something, especially solid pasta, and they try and swallow it and they choke and then they die, that's due to you. So pick up all your litter, even the bits of food you've left as well. Pack it away and take it with you. It's a lot lighter now because it's all inside me than it was when I was carrying it. I'm going to get to the nearest bin and drop it in the bin. The only problem is where I'm walking at the moment, I'm walking through marshland. Anyway, we'll head on. Now, we are going to deviate from this a little bit, just over the moorland. I want to go to a place called Brown Edge. And if I show you on the map, what is this? Well, let me take you to it and I'll tell you all about it. So you can just about make out up on the horizon line is the Oxstones, where we were last night. So I see somebody walking away from it. But we're heading this way now. We can see just down here this marshy line. That's the Porter's Brook. Try not to be too muddy today. So that's what we're looking for. If we get a bit closer, we might be able to see it a little bit clearer. If we look that way, we can see a bit of a path that way, but as we head down there a bit further, we'll see something a little bit more clearer. Okay, we're getting closer to it now. One of the problems with heathland, well, there's a couple of problems with heathland. One is that, look at it, you can't see the floor. So it's guesswork. Sometimes you put your foot down and you go down a foot or so. So it's hard going. The other thing is, walking at this time of year, well, seems to be out all year round now. Ticks. Ticks love places like this. In the summer, grass snakes. Not so often, but you do see them. Right, so this is what I'm looking for. Now I'll show you on the map. And this is called Brown Edge, as it says on the Ordnance Survey maps. Well, what is it? It stretches, by the look of it, about 100-150 metres. It's sloped down in angles. The base is about a metre to a metre and a half wide. At the top, it angles out. So it's probably about 3 or 4 metres wide at the top. Somebody did look at this a few years ago. I found a forum about it. And the guy said that he thought it might be a track. It was dug out for maybe carts on a single gauge track or pack horse route for moving stone between the quarries. But there's no evidence of that. And then there's the other thing is that obviously back in the day, this heathland probably wasn't here. So what was here was probably open land. So why would they have had to dig a trench like this? And the key word is trench. So what I mean by that is that he said he had a look on Google, but didn't come across anything. Well, I had a bit of a search on Google and I had an inkling to what it is because I've seen a couple more of these across the Peak District. There's a couple on Longshore Estate. That direction over there is Redmires Reservoirs, and I think there's 3 of them. Behind it was Redmires Camp. So Redmires Camp was built in World War I as a training area. It was built for the Sheffield City Battalion. So they came up here to do their training, practicing for World War I. And amongst a lot of their practicing they were doing was digging trenches. Looking on the map, apart from this one, there's no real evidence of any trenches around the Redmires area. So it would assume this was their trench building exercise. It was dug here. We'll move down a little bit. Now you can see either end of the trench, there's 2 little earthworks. And they're little pits. So one's just this bit here, and I would say that is a firing pit. There's one at the opposite end, but if we walk down it a little bit further, so in World War I, when they dug trenches, obviously first thing they had to learn how to dig the trenches, but then the second thing, they built it in this like V shape, And then at the bottom they used to put an A-frame, which is a board, and it looks like an A upside down. And the bit that goes across the middle to make the A is used to put a board on it called a duck board. Originally, when they probably started these trenches in First World War I, the ground would have been like this, mossy, wet, boggy, and that caused things like trench foot, gout, and rats used to run along it as well. So what they did was build this A-frame and then put the duck boards up, get the rats in the water below them, and the boards basically kept the soldiers' feet out of the water, and then it made it a little bit safer and easier to walk across. So these trenches were dug around 1915, 1916. The camp was changed. The camp became a prisoner of war camp, known as Camp 17. And in fact, had a particular gentleman that stayed here. And he was a German soldier, a U-boat commander. He was captured actually by the British and imprisoned at Redmires Camp. So that's the answer to this little riddle. That riddle's been solved. Then into the Second World War. So obviously a few years have passed. The camp was still there, but probably went a bit quiet. And then it reopened in the Second World War and became a prisoner of war camp known as Camp 17. Now it wasn't renamed to, I think it was called Whitlow Camp, but it was also known as Prisoner of War Camp 17. And it was a prisoner of war camp for German soldiers during the Second World War. So that's the answer to this little riddle. Redmires Camp was a training ground about a mile or so away from here, and the key thing was digging trenches. And what we see in front of us is the remnants of one of those trenches. So from here we're going to head back onto the footpath. So as I've reached the footpath, so if you've got a riddle of the landscape you need to solve, let me research it, go to it, let me work out the riddle. Although, if you're in New Zealand, maybe not so much. What you're willing to pay for my fare to get in. Local, UK, I could potentially do that. So, we've just met up with the road. Now, the footpath is just over there, and that's going to follow down a bit. Fortunately, we've got to the tree line because it did say that it's going to start raining at 1 o'clock. Well, it's only 10:30. It's raining there. Okay, so we look that way, we can see what's down here. So if we look to our right, we've got London's 142 miles away. We're at a height of 341 metres at the minute. Chicago's 3,836 miles away. And then we've got all these locations this way. Scunthorpe Steelworks, 42 miles away. Humber Bridge, 52. Lincoln Cathedral, 43 miles away. Quite a few locations. Don't say much about what's in actually Sheffield, which is obviously what's in front of us. You can see it's getting quite miserable there. So I need to get to this woodland area and hopefully change jackets, my down jacket to a waterproof jacket. Just after 5 p.m. on February the 22nd, 1944, 10 young American airmen, the crew of B-17G, My Amigo, sacrificed themselves in an act of true heroism. when they gave their lives to save the lives of children playing in Endcliffe Park, Sheffield, which is where I'm standing now. The My Amigo crew, mortally wounded, flew for 4 hours on their return journey back to England following a daylight bombing raid in Elberg, Denmark. The crew struggled to get the badly damaged aircraft back to the base in Shelverton, Northamptonshire. Without navigation and radio communication, lost in low cloud, low on power and unknown to the crew, they were more than 100 miles off course when they descended through the clouds and found themselves over the heavily built up city of Sheffield. Eyewitnesses report that the pilot looked as though he was attempting to force landing. However, upon seeing children playing football near the cafe and bandstand in the park, the pilot aborted his landing, and just as the children scattered into the trees, My Amigo rose one last time into the air before crashing into the wooded hillside 100 yards behind the cafe. All 10 American airmen aboard My Amigo died at the scene. The crew's sacrifice was recognised by senior officers of the 8th United States Army Air Force as one of exemplary courage. One of the school children playing football that day, Keith Peters, said the aircraft was heading straight for us, then suddenly it rose up and crashed into the hillside behind where we were playing with a huge bang. So erected by the citizens of Sheffield in memory of a great queen, Victoria. Will you find a fish? Is there any fish in this water? Oh, did he have something then? Back on something. Okay folks, that's the end of this walk. We've actually managed to get to the River Sheaf. With that, we're going to knock it on the head from here. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. And if you have, please click the like. I would love you to subscribe as well. But if you don't want to subscribe, then please click the like, because it does my channel the world of good. So I shall see you on the next one. As I say, I've got plenty of walks coming this way. So stick with us and I'll see you soon. So take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye, hikers.